Good morning and welcome to Klingspor's Woodworking Shop 20th Annual Woodworking Extravaganza Virtual. I'm Mike Z, and joined with me is Chris. And today we have Kyle from LearnYourCNC.com.
Hey guys, what's going on?
How are we doing?
Pretty good.
Good. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What is LearnYourCNC.com?
Well, I always had a passion for CNCs, and just recently I got really involved in the CNC groups and always getting questions about mostly Vetric software because I was answering a lot of questions. And I just decided might as well make some videos and throw a whole course together. And now I created a whole LearnYourCNC.com, and now I offer all kinds of Vetric training on there.
Awesome.
Well, I know I'm personally part of your one of your Facebook groups, the Learn Your CNC group, and I really enjoy sort of the interaction and the content and kind of what you're sort of moderating over there. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I try to keep everybody well engaged and answer everybody's questions.
That sounds nice. I try to keep everybody in line.
He fails most of the time with me, but we'll just let that slide.
So, boys, this is out of my wheelhouse 100%. So what I will do is I will mention really quickly that if you have a CNC, you're in the market for maybe some bits to go with that. Klingspor router bits, CNC bits are 15% off through the end of the week, as well as we have Amana bits 10% off.
Yep, and not really any sales going on right now, but we also carry a full line of the Next Wave digital wood carver, as well as Axiom CNC. If you're looking for a machine, we got you covered. Give us a shout and we'll see if we can't dial you into the machine that's right for you.
And if you don't know, call Chris.
Yep.
Let's see here. And you can call him at 800-228-0000.
Just don't call me this week because I'm over here working a show.
All right. So what do you think? Should we start the video?
Yeah, Kyle's put together a nice little presentation on 10 tips for the Vetric software, and it's it seems like it's the right way to go. You know, when you're getting started, software is always the key thing, not necessarily a machine. So software is always the thing that we get the most questions on. So he's put together a nice little presentation here and going to show you some of the tips that you'll need to know when you're getting into the software that'll help you streamline your progression into that. So let's show what Kyle's got for us here.
All righty, here we go.
Keyboard shortcuts. Now there's many different keyboard shortcuts you can use. You may know a few, but if you go to help, go to keyboard shortcuts, that'll bring up the Vetric website here with a long list of different keyboard shortcuts that are available. Now there's a lot here to learn. You may not learn all of these, but you will see that some of these can be very useful for you. So let's go back to our Vetric software. Now we don't have time to show you all the shortcuts, but I'm going to show you a few of my favorites. So we have my logo here, and you can see you could do a lot of operations without even touching your mouse. So for example, if I wanted to select everything on our screen here, all I have to do is click Control and the letter A, and that's going to select everything. And now if I wanted to center this into the center of my material, all I have to do is click F9 on my keyboard. And you can see without even touching my mouse, that was a quick way to select everything and center it into my job. Now, if I wanted to go further with that, I can even rotate this by clicking the number 9 on your keyboard. And you can see that it will rotate it 45 degrees in the counterclockwise direction. And if you were to click it again, that would rotate it another 45, so you'd be at 90 degrees now. And you can go all the way around with that. And you can also go the opposite direction by clicking the number 0 on your keyboard, and that'll rotate 45 degrees in the clockwise direction. Now you can also move objects around using your keyboard. So if you click the arrow keys on your keyboard, whichever direction you select would be the direction that your objects will move. So right now I'm clicking the left arrow key, and you can see it's moving left. And you can even move it in smaller increments using your control key and the arrow key, and that'll move it in smaller increments. And if you want to move it in larger increments, you can hold the shift key and your arrow, and you can see it'll move it at a much bigger distance per click. And if you were to mess something up and you wanted to undo your operation, Control Z will undo the last operation, and Control Y will redo the last operation. And if we wanted to center back up, just click F9 again, and we're back in the center. Now, probably one of my most used keyboard shortcuts is the Group Objects shortcut. So you can see right now, if we were to select our objects here, you can see these are all ungrouped objects. So that means they are not grouped together. So if we were to use our Control A again to select everything and type in the letter G on your keyboard, you can see now these are solid lines. And if we were to select one object here, now everything is selected together because now it's grouped together. And if you wanted to ungroup, just type in the letter U, and that ungroups your objects back apart, and now you can move individual pieces here. Another keyboard shortcut I like to use is if you select objects and double click them to go into the transform mode to be able to move your objects. You can see right now, if you were to click and drag, you can release and that'll move your object. So that's without using your keyboard. So let's undo that, Control Z, bring it back. If you wanted to move your object in a straight line, if you hold the Alt key as you drag, you can see moving my mouse left to right, it's not moving the objects because it's locked in the vertical position. You can also move it horizontally and lock it that way, moving your arrow up and down, you could see it will not move the objects. And if you release your Alt key, you can see now you have free form to move anywhere you like. So that's a great way to lock if you want to align objects as you move them. Now, if you were to release your mouse first and then the Alt key, that would move it in the exact location in the X direction there as it was down here. I'll show you another shortcut we can do here. If you were to hold the Control key, click and drag, you can see we have free form movement. But if we were to move it up here and release our mouse and then the Control key, you can see now by holding that Control key, when we moved our objects, it created a copy of our shapes we had selected. Another way we can do that is by combining the both techniques we just used. So if we hold the Control and the Alt key, as we move our objects, you can see it's going to lock it in the vertical position like we did before. But this time we're also holding the Control key. So when you release this time, now not only will it align vertically there, this time it'll also make a copy as well. And like I said, there's many more keyboard shortcuts to learn. Those ones I just showed you barely even scratch the surface of how many keyboard shortcuts you can use to speed up your workflow. Tip number 2 is your selection box direction.
So if you have any questions, I'll just stop it right there for a second. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments in the video below. We will be able to see them. Cal will be able to see them. And if you have any questions after the live, please feel free to comment so that way we can address them too. We just want to make sure that you understand that we are here to help you with this. Kyle's definitely here with all the CNC knowledge that I've ever heard. Chris actually just learned something from that video when we were watching it. He was like, I didn't know you could do that. That's cool. So it's helpful. So we'll go on with part 2, but I just want to let you know, go ahead and leave a comment. We'll be able to see them while the video is going and answer them.
So you can see we have these few simple shapes here. And let's say we wanted to select only these little circles here in the center. So to do that, you could select the circle, hold your Shift key, and you could select each circle here going through. And you can see that's not too hard. But let's say if you had a very big project or you had some kind of complex shapes here, that could get a little bit time consuming trying to select all those little shapes. So a quicker way to do it is to draw a box around it by clicking with your left mouse button, and you can click and drag and select. But you can see if we go from this right hand side, drag to the left hand side, and right now we have our circles inside of this imaginary box here. And when we release our mouse, you can see it's going to select everything in our design. That's because when you go from right to left, it selects anything that is touching the inside of your selection box. So to avoid that, if we select outside of here to deselect everything, so this time we're going to go from left to right. So if you click on your left side, you click and drag to your right side of your screen, and you can see right now we have all of our circles inside of our box. And this time when we release our mouse, you can see it only selects what is inside of our box there. Even though the other lines are touching the box, it will only select what's completely inside of the box. So that's a quick way to select objects by using your selection box there. Now keep in mind, if they are grouped together, it will not work. So let's say if these two objects were grouped together, I'm going to group those by typing our letter G again. So this time, if we were to select from left to right again, keeping all of our circles inside of the box, when we release our mouse this time, you can see it's only going to select this side. That's because this object is grouped with this rectangle, and the rectangle was not fully inside of the box. But you can see if we do get it fully inside of the box here and release, this time it'll select everything that was inside of the selection box. So that's just a quick tip how to select multiple objects very quickly. Tip number 3 is calculations in numerical boxes. Now you may not know what that means, but I'll show you an example here. Let's say if we were to draw a rectangle here by using our rectangle tool, you can see each one of these boxes here, we can enter a number. So these would be a numerical box. So we can actually do simple and complex math equations inside of these boxes, just like you would do with a calculator. So for an example here, let's say we wanted to create a rectangle on the right side of our job here, and we wanted the left edge of the rectangle at the center of our job, but we want the right side and the top and bottom 1 inch from the edge. So a quick way to do that would be to use the calculations in these boxes here. So we'd first want to set our anchor point on the left side of our rectangle. That'll make all the measurements we set here anchor off the bottom left-hand corner of our rectangle. So first in our X direction, which would be left to right here, we want that to start at the center of our job. So you may not know the exact center point of your job. So a quick way to do that would be to enter X for your X width here, and then the divide symbol, so just a slash, the number 2, so that's going to be the X direction divided by 2, and then type in the equal sign, and you can see that'll give us a value of 15. That's because our job is set up at 30 inches, so by using that calculation there, it's split in half for us at 15 inches. So that sets our anchor point for the left side of our rectangle. Now we want to set our Y direction, which would be top to bottom here. We want that 1 inch from the bottom edge. So we would just simply have to type in number 1 here. And now if we come down here to the size of our rectangle, for our X direction, we want it to be half of our material width minus 1 inch. So to do that, we could type in this box here, X divided by 2 minus 1, and then do the equal sign, and that leaves us with 14 inches. So like we said before, our halfway point was 15, minus 1 inch from our edge, that will give us this 14 here. And you can see by doing that calculation, it made that very easy. Now for our height, we will take our height, which would be the Y direction. So we're going to type in Y, and we want it 1 inch from the top edge and 1 inch from the bottom edge. So that'll be minus 2 inches. So if we do Y minus 2, then the equal sign, and that'll automatically put in our value there. So after we do all that, just click create, and you can see now we have a rectangle exactly where we wanted it. Halfway in our job, and 1 inch from the top, bottom, and the right side edge. And that was just one quick example of calculations you could do in these boxes. There are many more different equations you could do in these boxes, as well as many more variables you can use. Another way I'm going to show you, I'm going to close this. We'll go to our Toolpath tab. Let's say if we wanted to take this rectangle we created, and we wanted to make a pocket into our material a third of the way through the material. So to do that, we will go to our pocket toolpath. And for this example, I'm just going to use my 1/4 inch end mill. And our start depth will be 0 because we'll start at the top of our material. And for our cut depth, we would take our Z height, so that would be Z, and we would divide that by 3. And then do the equal sign. And now that will take us a third of the way through our material. So our material thickness right now is set up as 3/4 of an inch. So it gave us a value of 1/4 inch. So you can set up your toolpath, click calculate, or you can preview that selected toolpath, and you can see this pocket is now 1/3 of the way through our material. So that's another useful way to use the calculations in the numerical boxes. And my tip number 4 is aligning objects. So you can see right now we have these rectangles here, a little bit of a mess on our screen here. Let's say if you wanted to line these up in a nice straight row and you wanted to make the spacing equal in between each one. You can use your move tool, or you can manually move these, and it will take you quite some time to align all these up. So a quicker way to do this is to use your Transform Objects tool, the last one here called Align Selected Objects. We'll select this, and you can see this gives you many different options to align your objects. So if we wanted to align these all in a straight line, you would simply just select all these here, go to this Align to Selection tool, and we want to align it center in the vertical direction. So we just click that, and you can see with one click that aligned all these rectangles straight in a line here. But now you can see our spacing is off. So some of these have bigger spacing and some of these have smaller spacing. So with these still selected here and our tool still open, the quick way to make all the spacing equal, we'll just come over here and click the space selection. We'll click it in the horizontal direction, click that, and you can see it moved all of our spacing equal distance between each one. And now with these still selected, we can even go further with this by aligning it to the center of our material by coming up here, and these 3 options here align it to the center of your material. You can go just horizontally, just vertically, or you can go completely center into your material. And this is also the keyboard shortcut that I mentioned earlier, F9. But you can see if we click this as well, that'll center all of our objects, keeping our spacing the way it is here. And now with just 3 clicks there, we have perfectly aligned rectangles with the spacing all equal and centered into our material. And you can see that's just a few of the options we have here. We have many more options we can choose. Let's say if we just selected 2 of these rectangles and we wanted to put them right together, you can just select this one here, align to the right edge, and you can see that'll touch them right together. If you wanted to move it up, we would align to the top edge, and now the corners are touching. If we wanted these centered together, we click center in the horizontal direction, and now these are centered together. So you can see you can align objects all the way around different objects with lots of control with your Align Objects tool here. And one quick tip here, you can see if we close this form down, you can see you have no extra tools down here. But if we open our Align Selected Object tool back up, at the very bottom here, there's this little check mark here. If you select this checkbox, this will show common tools on the drawing tab. So now when we close our form down, you can see now we have our most common used Align Object tools right on our screen here. So now if we were to select one of these, it would align the objects without having to open that form back up. And my tip number 5 is the 3 things I like to do before creating any toolpaths. And I especially like to do this for any imported vectors. So the very first thing I like to do is right-click anywhere in the white space on your screen, go to Selection, go to Select All Open Vectors, and this will select any open vectors inside of your design. And if you look at the bottom of our screen here, it has the letter S and the number 3. So that means we have 3 items selected. So that means we have 3 open vectors in our design. So we can see these 2 obvious ones here that are selected. The last one we have to search for. And if you see down here, it looks like we have a line here selected. So I'm going to deselect, and I'm going to select this line here, and we could double click to move it. And you can see that's just a straight line there that's not connected to anything. So this is considered an open vector because the endpoints here are open and they do not come back around and connect to each other. So when you're creating toolpaths, you usually don't want open vectors, but there are some cases that you do want open vectors. But in this case, this sign will be V-carved, so we do not want this open vector. So we're just going to select this and click Delete on your keyboard, and that'll get rid of that one. Now if you come back up, and we can go back to right-click, come down to Selection, and go to Select All Open Vectors. And now we can see at the bottom of our screen, we have 2 items selected. So now we're down to 2 open vectors. So these are shapes that we do want, but they are open somewhere. So a quick way to join these together is coming over here to your Join tool. And you can see at the top here, we have 2 open vectors. After we click this Join button, it says we're going to have 1 closed and 1 open. So that means we're still going to have an issue with one of them. So let's click Join and click Close. And now we'll check one more time. Go to right-click, Selection, select all open vectors. And now you can see this one on the left was joined back together. So now this is considered a closed vector, but we still have some type of issue with this one over here. So we can zoom in and look around for any problem areas where it might not be connected. And if you don't see anything obvious, we can go into our node edit mode. And you want to search for the green point here, which is the start point. And if we zoom in, you can see we have an opening right here. So to join this back together, we can simply go over here and click this button here. This is to join open vectors with a straight line. So we'll click that, and you can see that created a line right there. And now this node that's right here is extra, so we can right click that and delete. And now we have a closed vector there. So we can right click to get out of our node edit mode. And one final check, you can right click, go to selection, select all open vectors. And now you see we have a message, no open vectors in design. So that's exactly what you want. So click OK. Now with our open vectors taken care of, the second thing I like to check for is going back to right click, go to selection, and this time we want to do select all duplicate vectors. So we're going to select this, and you can see no message popped up. So that means we have duplicate vectors in our design. And it looks like it's the 57 here in the middle. And we could tell because this is highlighted in the pink magenta line, but you could see behind the line, we could see a solid black line. So that means we have two vectors on top of each other. And we can confirm this by double clicking on this, and we can move it, and you can see we have two vectors here. So you don't want two vectors on top of each other, because if you were to create the toolpaths and select these, you may select both copies, and that may cause your toolpath to create a double copy of the toolpath. So you don't want to do that. So with our duplicate objects still selected, we're just going to click delete on our keyboard. And we're going to double check by going to right click, selection, select all duplicate vectors. And you can see we have no duplicate vectors in design. So now we're good there. The last thing I like to do is go to this blue check mark here, the vector validator tool, select that. And this will search for 3 different types of issues in your vector design here. So to use this tool, just click search all. And that's going to search your whole design for any kind of issues here. So we could see we have 0 zero-length spans, we have 0 overlaps, but we have 2 intersections. And this tool will highlight where they are by placing these little markers on it. So you can see we have 1 intersection over here, and we have 1 intersection over here. So we can zoom into those to see what they are. And when you zoom in, we can see we have a little bit of a loop here. And we could check on this side as well. Looks like we have the same issue here. So to fix these, we're going to click close. We're going to go to our scissor tool, and we want to make sure we have this check mark here. This will rejoin our open vectors when we close down this form. So to trim these away, just click on the vector here, and you can see that removes that. And now we'll zoom out, go to the other side over here. We'll find the other problem area and do the same thing. Just click to remove, and you can see, okay, there we go. It removed it now. And I will zoom back out, and now click close. And then we want to double check by going back to our vector validator, click search all, and you can see now we have 0 issues. So those simple 3 steps will take care of a lot of vector issues people have when creating toolpaths. And one more tip I'm going to add for you before creating toolpaths is tip number 6, and that's removing unnecessary nodes. So to do that, I always start off by selecting all of our objects here, especially if you have curves in your design. And you want to go to the node edit mode, and you can see by zooming in here the amount of nodes on these curves here. And the nodes are these little black points here. So you want the least amount of possible nodes when you create your toolpaths, because when your toolpaths are created, it's going to create a line of G code to program your machine to go to each one of these points. So the more points you have, the more lines of G code you're going to have. And in turn, that's going to make your machining time much longer than it should be. So if we zoom back out here, you can see up here in the top here, there's also a lot of nodes up here. So let's zoom back out. To fix this, we can do it very simply by going to this tool here. It's called Curve Fit. Select that. And if you're dealing with curves like this here, select the Bezier curve. That's going to convert these into smooth curves. And we want to select this box here to replace selected vectors. That's going to replace these vectors here with new vectors that have a lot less nodes on it. So once we have that set up, we're going to click preview. And you can see the amount of nodes that it removed here. So now instead of all those nodes here, you can see we only have a handful here. So this is going to reduce your machining time by a lot. And tip number 7 is nesting objects in odd shapes. So for this example, we have this apple design here, which may look familiar. And if we zoom back out, we have a full 4x8 sheet here. So let's say we had this 4x8 sheet in your shop, but for some reason you may have cut a corner out of it, or maybe even drilled a hole or something inside of your sheet, but you still have lots of usable space you want to use up on your CNC. So to do that, we're just going to draw the sheet that we have in our shop. So we're going to start with our rectangle tool. Since we have our job set up as a 4x8 sheet, all we have to do is click in the corner, click and drag all the way to the other corner. And now we have a rectangle the size of our sheet. And now you'd have to measure the corner cutout we have. So let's say we have a cutout in this top right corner that is 24 inches by 30 inches. So to do that, we can click and drag in our top right hand corner, and we could drag a rectangle out. And you can see on our cursor there, we have measurements that we can go off of. So we want to just get it close here. We don't even have to get it exact. We can just get it close and release your mouse and then come over to your anchor point here. We're going to set that at the top right hand corner. So our top right hand corner anchor will stay there. And we're going to adjust the width and the height here. So our width we said was 30. So we're going to enter 30. Our height is 24. We'll click apply and you can see that adjusted there. So now that takes care of our corner cutout in our sheet. So let's click close. And now let's say we had a hole drilled over in here somewhere. So to enter in that hole, you would go over to our circle tool and we would enter our diameter. So let's say we had a 6-inch diameter hole. So let's enter 6. And we can enter the exact center point here in the X and the Y direction. So let's say in our X direction, it was 50 inches that we measured and our Y direction was 36. Click create. And there we go. We have a 6-inch diameter hole, 50 inches from the left side and 36 inches from the bottom side to the center. Now we'll click close. Now in order for this to work, we have to connect this rectangle we created up here with the first rectangle we created on our job size. So to do that, I'm just going to come up here, double click on our smaller rectangle to enter into the transform mode, and then click and drag the top right corner just to extend it past our line there. And now I'm going to deselect to get back out of the transform mode. And we want to select our bigger rectangle first, and then hold your shift key, and then select the smaller rectangle second, and then come over here and click the subtract tool. And you can see that got rid of the corner of our bigger rectangle and what was outside of our job with the smaller rectangle. So now we would take our bigger rectangle we have selected here, and holding shift key will select the circle we created. And now we would click the letter G on your keyboard to group those together. And now you could see if we were to move this, you could see we have our sheet created. So this would be an example of a sheet that you may have cut the corner out of and may have drilled a hole somewhere in here. So let's undo that to bring it back to where it was. Now that we have our sheet created, we are going to nest our apples inside of the sheet to get as many as we can to fit in here. So I'm going to zoom back into our job here. Now we just have to select the shape we want to nest, come over to our nesting tool, and you want to set up all your parameters here. And on the apple, I'm going to set a number of copies. Let's try 60. So we're going to try making 60 apples fit inside of here. Click apply. Now we have 60 copies set. And now if we were just to click preview, you can see that's going to go into the hole that's in our sheet, as well as over here where the corner of the sheet is cut out. So that will not work. So let's go to edit, undo. In order for this to work, we have to hold our shift key, select our outer shape that we just created, and we want to check this box here where it says last vector is nest boundary. So check that. And now click preview. And now you can see all the apples fit in here. It goes around our hole and as well as avoids the corner here where we have cut out. And you can see we still have a little bit more room. So if you wanted to fit more in there, click edit, undo, and let's try 61. Click apply, click preview, and you can see now we have all the usable space used up on our sheet here. So this is a great way to use up any kind of scrap material you have laying around in your shop. And this doesn't just apply for rectangle material. You can do this in circle cutouts or anything as well. to use up all your scraps. Tip number 8 is associating toolpaths with the layers. So you can see we have simple cabinet parts right here, and we have a cabinet side with some adjustable shelf holes in it. We have a cabinet bottom, and we have one top rail here. So right now we have this all on layer 1. So you can turn the visibility off here, and you can see all of our parts are on the layer 1. So we turn that back on, and there's all our parts. So if we switch over to our toolpath tab, you can see I have a drill toolpath set up for our shelf pinholes. I have a pocket toolpath set up for our dados, and I have a profile toolpath to cut out our shapes. So we can preview all these in our 3D view, and we're going to click Preview All Toolpaths. And we can double click to get rid of our waste here. And you can see these are our cabinet parts here with our toolpaths machined. And you can see we have no issues with this, but let's say we wanted to make enough parts to make 2 cabinets. So to do that, we're going to go back to our drawing tab and back to our 2D view. And we're going to use our nesting feature. And we're going to select our top rail and our side here. These 2 pieces, we're going to want 4 copies of each. So we're going to set our number of copies to number 4 here. Click Apply. Now these will have 4 copies. Our bottom piece here, we're going to only want 2 copies. So we'll put 2 here, click Apply. And now we'll select everything again. Now we have 2 copies of our bottom piece and 4 copies of our sides and our top rails. So I'm going to click Preview. And there we go. Now we have enough parts to create 2 cabinets. So now if we click OK, and if we go back to our Toolpath tab, all of our toolpaths are still set up for the original parts we had there. Now we would have to go in and edit each one of these toolpaths and select all of these shapes here that we want to associate with this toolpath. So you can see with all these parts here, it could be very time consuming selecting all the parts you want to associate with each toolpath. So I'm going to show you a much better way to do this. We're going to click Close. Let's turn our visibility of our toolpath off. We're going to go back to our drawing tab, and I'm going to undo our nesting. So we're back to our original parts. And instead of keeping these all on one layer, we're going to separate each layer for each toolpath. So to do that, my first layer here, I'm going to select, and I'm going to rename this one Drill. And I'm going to click to deselect this. And I'm going to turn our visibility off here. And you can see all of our objects are on our drill layer right now. And that's okay because we're going to add a new layer. So we're going to turn this back on. There's a few ways you can add new layers for your existing objects here. I'll show you one way here. We could just click Add New Layer. And I'm going to name this one Pocket. So now we have this layer here, but nothing is on this layer right now. You can see this sheet icon is empty, meaning there's nothing on this layer. So to move stuff onto this layer, we would select anything that's going to be a pocket by holding your Shift key and select all of our objects there. Right click, click Move to Layer, and here we have the pocket layer we just created. So click that. And now if we go back up to our layers, you can see now something's on this sheet. So now when we turn that off, you can see our pockets disappear. So this is one way to create a new layer. Another way is selecting the objects you want to add to a layer. So in this case, we'll do the profile. So we're going to select all of our objects that we want on the profile layer. So we're going to select all 3 of these. I'm going to right click, go Move to Layer. And this time down at the bottom, we're going to click New Layer. And we'll just name this one Profile. And click OK. And now if we come back up here, you can see that added this new layer here called Profile. And if we turn the visibility off, now those objects are on the profile layer. These objects are on the pocket layer. And the holes are on the drill layer. So now our layers are separated by toolpath operation. So that's going to allow us to keep everything organized. So now if we go back to our nesting feature, we're going to select all of our objects again. We still have our copies set here. So we're going to have 4 of the top rails, 4 of the sides, and 2 of the bottoms. Let's click Preview. And that's going to nest our objects again. We're going to click OK. And now if we go up to our layers, you can see we have the drill. All the holes are on the drill layer. Go to Pocket. All the pockets are on the pocket layer. And all the profiles are on the profile layer. So now if we go over to our Toolpath tab, if we turn our toolpath visibility on, you can see we're still set up for our original shapes we had created there. So we're going to have to edit our toolpaths, but this time it's going to be much easier because we have different layers. So if we open up our drill toolpath by double clicking on it, and instead of selecting all these individual holes, all we have to do is come down here to the bottom where it says vector selection. Right now we're in the manual mode, so that means we have to manually select each one. If we go to selector, this will open up this form here, which will allow you to associate the toolpath with the layer that it's on. So we have a few filter options we can select from. We want to have closed vectors, and we want to have them on the drill layer. So we select a layer over here, which would be the drill, and you can see that selected all of our holes here. And now the most important step here, we want to check this box here to associate with the toolpath. Now we're going to click close. And now you can see the vector selection switch to automatic. So now we click calculate. And we still have our preview from before, so we can reset our preview. And now this created a toolpath for all those holes there. So now we just have to do the same thing for our pocket and our profile. So I'm going to double click on the pocket, open this up. And down at the bottom, I'm going to go to selector. I'm going to go to close vectors, and this time we want the pocket layer. So you can see all of our pockets are selected now. We're going to associate with the toolpath again. So select that, click close. Now you can see our vector selection switch to automatic again. Now we just come down and click calculate. And now that created all of our pockets there. Now the last one we have to do is the profile. So double click that to open it. We'll switch back to our 2D view. And for the profile, you want to make sure you have this box checked up here, show advanced toolpath options. And you can see down here we have the vector selection. If you have that box unchecked, which it is by default, you will not have this option down here. So make sure to check this box. We'll come down to the bottom, click selector. And we want to do all closed vectors, and we want to be on the profile layer. So now that has all of our objects selected there. We're going to associate with the toolpath again, click close. Now we switch to automatic, and now we just click calculate. And there's all of our toolpaths. And now we can do preview all toolpaths. And you can see that created a toolpath for all of our shapes there. We can double click on the waste to remove it. And there's our objects here. Now the benefit of using this method is you can make changes and quickly recalculate your toolpaths without having to go back and edit them. So I'll show you how to do that. We're going to reset our preview. We're going to close this down. And let's go back to our 2D view. Now when we nested our objects, you can see it created all the same sides here. So right now the way we have this, we have 4 left sides. So if we were to cut these out, we would not be able to make complete cabinets because we have 4 lefts and no rights. So to fix that, all you have to do is select one of the sides here, click the letter H on your keyboard, and you can see that flips it horizontally. And we'll do the same thing for this one over here. Click the letter H, and now you can see we have 2 lefts and 2 rights. But if we go to our toolpaths, these are still set up as all lefts. So we would have to recalculate this by just clicking recalculate all toolpaths. And you can see it says all toolpaths successfully recalculated. So click OK. And now that recalculated without having to make any edits to these right sides. But now to go even further, if we turn our toolpaths back off here, let's say if we wanted to delete some of the shelf pin holes at the top of one of these cabinets. So I'm going to select some of those shelf pins and delete those. And let's say instead we wanted to add a fixed shelf. So we're going to select our bottom dado here. And I'm going to double click and use my control key to make a copy as I move it up to the top of the cabinet here. And I'm just going to release it up here. And you can move that more accurately, but I'm just going to show you this for example. So now we have new grooves we have to cut up here and less shelf pin holes. But if we select our toolpaths, we can see we're still set up to cut all those holes there and no groove. But since we copied these objects and they were on the pocket layer, you can see if we turn our toolpath back off, if we go up to our layers, our pocket layer has those new grooves we just added. That's because we copied them from the pocket layer that they were already on. So now all we have to do is click recalculate all toolpaths and then click OK again here. And now you can see it got rid of the extra holes there and added the pocket for the new shelves. So now we can just go to our 3D view again and go to our preview toolpaths and preview all toolpaths. And you could double click to get rid of the waste. And you can see, without having to do much, we have our new toolpaths created for the edits that we made to the cabinet. And you can use the same technique for any kind of V-carving signs or anything else that you wanted to create. Tip number 9 is our solid toolpath view. So you can see we have this American flag drawn here. So we're going to create some toolpaths for this. So if we select the whole flag here, we're going to make a pocket toolpath for this. And we're going to try this 1/4 inch end mill. And we're going to come down here, click calculate. And you can see that created all the toolpaths we needed there. So we're going to click preview selected toolpath. And you can see the stripes look okay, but you can see the stars don't look quite as good. So that tells us that our end mill is too large to fit in the corners of our stars. And you can confirm this by switching to our 2D view. If you turn the visibility of your toolpath on by checking the box here, we can zoom in and you can see the wireframe view of our toolpath. So this is on the line where it's carving. But to get a better visualization of what will be carved, up at the top here, you can switch this to a solid view here. And this will turn your toolpath purple in the areas that it will carve. So anything white will not be carved, anything purple will be carved by your tool. So we can clearly see that the tips of these stars here will not be carved. So we can zoom out and you can see even the stripes in the corners where the radius of the end mill would be will not be carved as well. So if you're using Cut 2D and you don't have access to a V-carving toolpath, you can go back into your pocket toolpath by double clicking and we can select another bit here. So I'm going to add an 1/8 inch end mill, click select, and you can see that added an 1/8 inch end mill to our list here. So now the 1/4 inch will do the bulk of the work and then the 1/8 inch will clean up any areas that the 1/4 inch has missed. So down at the bottom here, we're going to click calculate. And that's going to recalculate adding our second toolpath there with the 1/8 inch end mill. So with that one selected, I'm going to click preview selected. And you can see our stars got a little bit bigger there. So you can see they are carved more, but we still do not have the tips carved. And we can switch back to our 2D view. We'll zoom into their stars, turn on our toolpaths. And you can see with our solid view here, we still do not have the tips carved. So the only way you'll be able to carve into here with the end mill is if you use a very tiny end mill. But the best way to do this, if you have V-carve or Aspire, you will want to use the V-carving toolpath. So let's delete our pockets here. We're going to go to right click and delete all toolpaths. Now with our objects still selected, we're going to switch to our V-carve toolpath. And we have a flat depth set to 0.08 inches. We have a 60-degree V-bit selected. And we want to use a clearance tool. This will hog out the bulk of the material and cut our flat depth with a nice clean flat bottom. So we're going to click select. In this case, we can use the 1/4 inch end mill. So click select. We'll come down here, click calculate. And now you can see that created a clearance toolpath with our 1/4 inch end mill and then a V-carve toolpath with our 60-degree V-bit. So let's reset our preview from before. And you can see if we turn off our V-carve toolpath, this here is our clearance tool. So we can preview that by clicking preview selected. And here's our 1/4 inch end mill, what it will carve. And then if we select our V-carve toolpath, we will preview that. And that's what the 60-degree V-bit will take care of. And if you zoom in here, we could see our stars are carved all the way up to the tip. And you can see in the areas that are cleared with the V-bit, you're going to have some ridges there, and the areas that are carved with the end mill is going to be nice and flat. So if we were to add a smaller tool for our clearance toolpath, we could have cleared up some more of these ridges here. But if we switch back to our 2D view and turn our toolpaths on, we can zoom in now, and you can see with the V-bit toolpath, it's cut all the way to the tips of all the stars here, as well as the stripes here. And the V-bit toolpath is the only toolpath capable of cutting right up into the corners here because it's a 2.5 dimension where when it gets to a corner, it'll raise up and go right to the tip of the material there. But the solid view on your toolpaths here up at the top makes it very clear what will be carved and what will not be carved when you calculate a toolpath. My last tip, tip number 10, is job templates. And for this tip, we're coming back to this fire rescue badge we worked on earlier. And we're also combining the technique we learned earlier by associating the layers with the toolpaths. So you can see we have almost everything on the V-carve layer, and then we have the outer shape on the profile layer. So we turn those back on. Let's go to our toolpath tab, and let's switch over to our 3D view. And we're going to preview our toolpaths by clicking Preview All Toolpaths. And let's remove the waste by double-clicking. And you can see here's our finished product here. Now let's say, for example, if you made a lot of these, but you wanted to change the number every time, we can save this project as a template. So to do that, we'll go to File, Save as Template. And then you want to give this template a name. So let's just do Fire Rescue. We'll click Save. And now I'll show you how to use that in a new project. So when we open up a new project here, we're going to select New File from Template. And we're going to select that Fire Rescue template we made. So select that, click Open. And we can change the size if we like, but we're going to keep this the same. So we're going to click OK. And now if we wanted to change the number, all you have to do is select this, go into our text, and let's just type another number. Let's say we did 62. Click Close. And now you can see we have a new number there. And if we go over to our Toolpath tab, and if we were to turn the visibility of our toolpaths on, you can see if we switch to the solid view, we still have the 57 there. So in order to carve the 62 instead, we're just going to click Recalculate All Toolpaths. And then you're going to click OK. And now you can see it created new toolpaths for our new number here. So if we go to the 3D view and preview, we can preview all toolpaths again. And you can see that's a quick way to make multiple signs by just changing some variations in each one. And what makes the job template nice, you only have to save that template file. So if what you were making only required to do this one time, we would change the number like we just did there, save our toolpaths, and you can run those toolpaths on your machine, but we don't have to save this file because we have it saved as a template. So that template would be your go-to file, and you just have to change the number every time and resave the toolpaths. And that would prevent you from needing to save a ton of files on your computer if you're only changing a few things on your project. If you enjoyed today's training and you'd like to learn more, you can check out my Vetric Master Training course, where I go more in depth on every topic inside of Vetric software with video lessons. I also have keyboard shortcuts that I used inside the videos and examples from the videos. And this covers all softwares, including Cut2D, VCarve, and Aspire. And if you have any questions throughout the course, we have discussions on the right where you can post questions and get answers from me and other students. And if we go back to the left side here, we have all of our lessons organized into individual chapters. And as you complete chapters, you'll get a check mark here, and your progress is also tracked at the top. But you also have unlimited access to watch the videos as many times as you like. And you can also search within the course by the search bar at the top. Another Vetric training I offer is live training. So with our live training course, every week we have a 1-hour live training where we go over any project suggested by the enrolled students, where you can watch live on the screen and participate with any questions you may have throughout the project. Each live session is recorded and uploaded so you can watch as many times as you like. And then in the replays, I also provide the files that you can download to try for yourself. If you'd like to sign up for either or both of these courses, check out courses.learnyourcnc.com.
Welcome back.
Very nice. Good job, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, that I learned a lot, and I haven't even messed with Vetric or anything else, but now know that it's not as complicated as what it looks like when he's doing it.
It's not too bad when you get the hang of it.
I make it look tough, so it makes it look like I know what I'm doing.
All right.
But yeah, nice job. And if you check out his Facebook group, jump on there and join the team. And I'm sure he'd love to have you in there. And there's a lot of that back and forth, and it's a great source if you've got just general questions. Does a great job of chiming in, and it's a community thing. So you'll get comments from other members of the group as well. So go over to the Facebook and check that out if you're looking to get into CNC, or maybe you've been in it for a while. Come join the team over there.
Yeah, it's called CNC File Help and Support Group. So we cover all different softwares, not just Vetric.
Very cool. So if anyone's starting out with any kind of CNC and they need to get software for it, you're going to be able to assist them.
I'm not going to say every software, but we have members in the group that also know other software. So
Okay.
Almost anybody's question could be answered in there. Somebody's got to know it. We got a couple thousand people in there now, so pretty good community.
Just kidding. No, that's awesome, because I had no idea there was that much of a community surrounding it. I mean, this is all Chris, and he handles this part of it. So I'm kind of blown away by knowing all this information.
Yeah, and I'm a member of other CNC groups, and I would say this is definitely one of the better ones. If you're not harassed or made to feel stupid, if you've got questions or issues. And I know it was a few weeks ago, I was struggling with a project and at my wit's end, and I posted something in there and, got some good tips and, found my way out of my pit, if you will.
Very cool.
Yeah, I try to keep it a very positive environment. No negative comments or anything like that.
Yeah, Cal will give you the boot.
But no, very good, very good. And if anybody does have a CNC and maybe they're using one of the lower level Vetric softwares like Desktop or Cut 2D, and if you're interested in upgrading, we offer the V-Carve Pro as well as Aspire. Now, I personally use Aspire a lot. That's my I do a lot of that 3D sort of stuff. But if you're interested in that software, we've got that available. You can find that on our website and under the CNC information. And if you've got questions on any of that, either reach out here, leave questions, go visit Kyle's page, or give us a message here, shoot me an email, give us a call, whatever. We're all here to help whatever you need with a CNC.
That's right. And if you need to give us a call, the telephone number is 800-228-0000, or shop us at woodworkingshop.com.
Yep. And, next week, our chat line will be back open. So if you've got questions, you can always feel free to just pop on the chat line and let us know. And as we mentioned earlier, this video will be uploaded on our YouTube platform. And if you've got questions, let's say you watch this, 2 months from now, go check it out, leave your comment, leave your message, and we'll get back to you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kyle. We appreciate you being here and making that terrific 10-tip video for us. When we were watching it, I asked Chris, I said, because by the title, I like, did he make that for this? He said, yeah. And I was like, that is awesome. So thank you very much for that. I do appreciate it.
No problem.
And then you dropped the apple bomb, and we knew what that was all about.
Yeah. As soon as I saw the apple, I was like, oh, that's so cool. So
I was hoping you guys like that.
absolutely. Yeah. We had a nice chuckle on it. It was just one of those cool factors. So
and it even had the bite out of it. So we were like, yeah, that's it.
I try to have fun with it.
Yeah, you did a great job. Thank you very much for that. And hopefully we'll be talking to you in the future about some stuff.
Yeah, I can see there's a lot of potential here with future classes or demonstrations that we might do. So we'll stay close and be friends.
I like to be friendly.
All right. Well, thank you again, everyone. Coming up today at 1:00, we're going to be doing finishing with Fuji spray, and Jim from Fuji will be joining us. So if you have any questions, please feel free to join in.
Not just a Fuji apple, it's an actual spray system.
Oh, and then Kevin, like to say I'm part of Kyle's master class. It is great.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
How much did you pay him to come in and say, no, I'm just kidding.
I will not disclose that information.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks for the invite.